Welcome everybody to our very first episode, our Q&A. We're still trying to figure out a name for this session, so if you've got any ideas, drop them in the comments below. But ask Scott, I don't know, Scott says, who knows. But obviously the questions we've asked you for are around branding, marketing, signage, print, pretty much anything you're getting stuck on. Don't think of any questions being too obvious because you may just be helping other people out with their questions. I am joined today by the lovely Claire, who is hiding behind the camera, and she's going to fire away with some questions to me, and we will just see how this goes. So, what have you got, Claire?
Alrighty, we've got Kate Gibson, who has said, "Hey Scott, how regularly should we update our brand? We love our brand, but realise that it might need some subtle changes over time. Love to hear your thoughts."
All right, okay, Kate. Number one, great that you love your brand. That is awesome. It means that you've actually done a good job to start with. Anytime I hear anyone talking about changing their brand, rebranding, I kind of always want to dive into why. Like, what are the why questions? Do you believe that you're not reaching the right kind of audience anymore? Are your competitors doing a better job? Usually there's a reason in behind that. So without knowing the context or the reason, I guess I would say I don't mind subtle changes. I know that's possibly not what a branding person should say, but you can evolve your brand over time subtly without changing huge aspects of it, without your clients really noticing. So you can keep up on trend a little bit more, because the cost and the scope of changing a whole brand, it can be quite difficult. So I believe if you've already said you like it, as long as it's communicating well to your target audience and you're getting some good penetration there, I would say some subtle little tweaks along the way can be done without sort of crossing the laws of branding. We've done that quite a lot within our own brand. It's very hard for us to leave anything untouched for too long because we're in that creative space, and we like tinkering. So what we've done is we've slowly over time changed our subset of fonts that we work with for our other parts of marketing, and when we do make those changes, we blend them in quite seamlessly, and we make sure that they stay consistent. We don't change it weekly, but over the years it's subtly changed. So I feel like that's possibly something that you could do.
Awesome. Alrighty, we have a question from the lovely Miranda Napton. "Hi Scott, I have lots of tradies ask about the best place to find a logo. Often advice from others is Google an image or use Fiverr or similar. What would you recommend for a tradie who has recently started their business but needs a logo/brand started? How can you keep your costs down in that shoestring startup phase?"
Wow, okay. Great question, Miranda. Big question. Well, where do I start? Look, startup phase for any business can be expensive, and yes, it makes sense to cut costs. I would make a list of the things that are going to help me get clients, and the things that are essential to my business, and I wouldn't look to cut too many costs there. Where I would look to cut costs, so if we're talking tradies, do you need a Ford Ranger straight away in your first year of business? Those kind of things. I mean, your brand, it is definitely worth putting some time, energy, and investing, use the word investing, not cost, into your brand, because that's what's going to attract the right kind of clients to you. Before jumping out there and getting hold of a designer and working on that stuff, you really need to ask yourself some big questions around, purpose. Why are you starting the business? Who are you doing it for, in the sense that who do you want your key customers to be? Because your logo is going to be the visual part of the brand that needs to be able to connect and communicate with that target audience. And there's a huge difference between, say, a chippy or a builder that would be doing, say, decks and home handyman renovations kind of work, and someone who is chasing architectural home builds. You should look different to the consumer, because I'm sure you're going to have very different ways of doing business, different pricing structures, etc. I think designs are, it's key in startup phase. But what I will say, in startup phase, you're like a overexcited little puppy that just wants to get out there and start your business. And maybe you don't know too well about who you are and who that customer should be. Spend some time on that stuff. We live in a world now where we're a Google search optimized world. So talk to your friends and family. Ask them what kind of terms they would Google if they were looking for your services. If you've figured out who your target audience is and your friends and families don't match, then don't ask them. Ask people that are in that target audience. Ultimately, the more of those kind of keywords or understanding of what those kind of people are looking for, if you can build that into your business name or your tagline or some of your website copy or any of the content that goes alongside your brand, that's probably a really, really good place to start in the startup phase. But it doesn't have to cost you the earth. Just make sure you do your homework. And it's like interviewing. When you pick a designer, you should be interviewing them. And you should be finding out what they are going to offer you. No two designers are equal. I would be looking for someone who was willing to sit down and ask me some of those kind of questions that I've just posed, in the sense that, why did you start the business? What's your purpose? What are you looking to achieve? Who are your key customers? What kind of work do you love doing? All of those kind of things. If you sit down with a designer and they start talking, fonts, colors, and what style, I think you're just going to miss the mark. I guess, hopefully that's helped answer that question. But if you know heaps of traders that are in startup phase, then I want to be your friend, because I can help them too. So let's connect.
Okay, we've got a tongue twister from Paul Walters. Hi Scott, my name is Mark. I want to market a company called Mark's Market. Will this need to be trademarked or just need a logo brand Mark to help market Mark's Market? Perhaps you could help.
Oh, Mr. Paul Walters, you are having an identity crisis, clearly. For those that don't know, Paul is the current president of the New Zealand Sign and Display Association, and although he is taking the piss out of my little Q&A here a little bit, there is a real question lying beneath the riddle, and good luck marketing Mark's Market, and I hope it works out well for Mark. But realistic, I think the question here is, how do we protect our brands? Now, if Mark's Market is a brand new company, I would jump on Companies House and do a little bit of research to make sure that no one else has the name Mark's Market. You could Google Mark's Market and find out who else is marketing themselves under Mark's Market out there, just to be safe and sure. But that's not going to cover all bases. Especially something like Mark's Market, more than likely might not be a limited company or might not be a registered company. There might be another Mark out there who's operating in markets who believes that his name is his and it's unique to him. Either way, I'll stop with the Mark's Market part and get on to the real part of this. If someone believes that you're trading off of their well-earned reputation or their name, it can be a very grey area. So when we talk about trademarking, I haven't done it myself, and I haven't had a client that's gone through that process, but I have had some conversations around what would happen if, and it comes under a term called confusingly similar. So basically, if Joe Public out there if one brand accuses another brand of having a very similar brand, then they go to mediation, and what they look at is this term confusingly similar. So would Joe Public be able to tell the difference between the two brands? This usually comes up if the names are very similar or if the identity is very similar, but usually when it's actually in a very similar industry, that's when it becomes a problem, because brand A that feels that they were established first or have the trademark in place feels that brand B is actually winning at the expense of their reputation, which is where the confusingly similar part comes in. Now, it's a very grey area. It costs money, and there's a process to go through to trademark, and it will also cost you money regardless of whether you got the trademark in place or not, to fight that battle and go through that mediation process as well. So it's a tough one. I think it's one of those cases where the lawyers win and nobody else does, and depending on how far you want to take it, whether or not you feel that having that brand mark in place, the logo mark, I'm getting confused with the marks now, Paul, but whether you need that protection in place for you to move forward. Anyway, I just want to know what Mark plans on selling in his in his market, and I hope that you do a great job of his marketing so that Mark's Market becomes the success it really needs to be. Thanks for the question, Paul.
Maybe he's selling markers.
Oh, markers. Marky
At
Marks.
Market.
Marky Marks. Marketing markers. I don't know.
Top marks.
Yeah, good.
We've got a question from Trina Thompson. Hey there. If we're thinking of redoing our logo, what marketing/branding strategy do we need to have in place before rolling it out so our message is clear across all platforms? Stationery, online, car wrapping, etc.
Alrighty, great question, Trina. Well, before you do the branding or the rebranding, I think the big question is why. Like, what's wrong with the existing logo? Really understanding that is the first part for me, because I think the key to rebranding successfully is really understanding perhaps where it's disconnected or not working. For me, the main reasons for rebranding should be the current version of the brand isn't communicating with who our target audience is, or maybe your target audience has changed over time, and that's where the disconnect is. So really understanding why will actually help you shape the brand to be where it needs to be, and hopefully that is all around that connection and that relationship and messaging towards the target audience. But let's say you've got that brand done and now you are in that rollout phase. How do you do it, and how do you do it successfully? For me, the key to this is having a really robust brand guidelines set up. And whoever works on your brand, whether it's web, social, print, signage, whoever's doing that work should have a copy of that brand in front of them, and you should be just hammering them that this is has to be done to these requirements. A good brand guideline will not only define the PMS colours or Pantone colours of your logo and the fonts that you should be using, but down to everything in the sense that the style, the guide, the voice, the way we communicate, the subset of fonts that should be used in other forms of content, the spacing, how you apply it to colour backgrounds and photos, pretty much everything. It shouldn't be a 3-page document. This should be a robust, larger document that really covers off all of those areas to make sure that all the different suppliers that you use get it right for you, and that brand is recognised and consistent across the board.
Awesome. Alrighty, so we've got one from Corey Williams. Hi Scott, do you feel you should come up with an overall marketing strategy including branding in the first instance, or just start trying different forms of social media and see what sticks? Thanks.
Okay. Confusing question in the sense that I'll take my own take on it, in the sense that should you apply a strategy to the way you market yourself? Yes, you should. But strategy is only as good as how the market takes it. So I would say there's a great little phrase that I try and use, because I'm a guy that what's my word here? I can suffer from paralysis by analysis. And sometimes you can live inside your head and wonder what the market's going to say or do, or how they're going to react. And it's just better to put it out there and test and measure. Now, that doesn't mean you don't do it with a strategy, but just don't spend 6 months strategizing before you go to market. The only thing that matters is what the market thinks. So, definitely have some kind of strategy, in the sense that, like for social media, one of the things I'm building out at the moment is a social media calendar, just so that I have some kind of plan around my posting schedule, around the type of content that I'm posting, and it's basically so I have the ability to get help with that. I'm doing it by myself at the moment, but I'd like to have a team of people here that can also help with that strategy. So putting some kind of roadmap down for them to follow, to keep it consistent, because obviously with branding you want it to be consistent. We are trying to focus on our pillar content, so that we may have a few different things that we put out, but they are all kind of strategically aligning to the same kind of things, so that when our audience hears and sees what we're saying, they're hearing and seeing a consistent message, and that's based around the things that we want to be memorable for. So strategy, yes, but not at the cost of attempting. if that makes sense. Don't just keep attempting, have some strategy to it, but go to the market and see what they say. Because what we do in our heads and in our boardrooms and in our teams, if it's not done in the real world, we'll just never know. The best strategy may not work. So give it a crack.
Give it a crack, Nige.
Alrighty, that is the end of episode 1. Maybe we'll do this again. It would be really cool. So what we need from you guys is more questions. Put them down here or over there, or I don't know where they're going to go, where you'll see this. They might even be there or there. But give me some questions. Direct message us. If you like this, give it a like, give it a share. And maybe we'll do it again sometime. Awesome.